Hey guys, welcome to episode 8, Mayfield and Friends. Today I am joined by somebody from the Iron Pure CC. His name is Ult Pure. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah, thanks again for having me. So just a little bit about my account. So I am a one defense ultimate Ironman, maxed 101 combat, including 9 attack and 99 prayer. I currently have 10,368 hours logged to my account.
Damn.
Um, yeah, I checked that today and I was like, oh wow, I didn't realize it's been that long. But let's see. And I do have one 200 mil um, under my belt. I am rank 2 range overall for UIM. I believe rank 5 for iron and rank 50 overall for all accounts. Uh, and yeah, that's kind of an introduction for my account so far.
Awesome. And I know I want to start right away with what you mentioned about being 99 attack and 99 prayer. I know a lot of pures, including myself on my alt pure, alternate account. It's not Ultimate Iron Man as well. It's a hardcore. For those who don't know. You have not restricted yourself to an attack or prayer level. What made you decide to do that?
So this actually kind of goes to the beginning of my account. Kind of going forward here, but I originally started this account as an obby mauler because I thought it'd be kind of like a cool trophy account. And then over time, I ended up going 50 attack because my goal was to have one attack, 9 on strength, 9 on range, 9 on prayer. I'm sorry, 9 on magic with one prayer. And I've never seen any account like that. So I thought, it'd be a cool thing. But after my clan buddies bugged me enough, I decided to get 50 attack because, you don't actually receive any extra combat levels from that. And then Neve came out, I think, a little bit before that. It's a little blurry. But I realized that I could stay 50 attack and have um, 85 combat by getting 99 prayer. And at this point, I only saw, I think, maybe one other person have that type of account, and they were actually a normal account, not iron. So I thought that'd be really cool. Stayed 50 attack, max of 99 prayer for a very long time, actually all the way to 200 mil range and 50 mil magic. And then at that point, I kind of like changed what my goals were, so that's when I ended up getting attack. So I actually didn't get 9 attack until somewhat recently.
Oh wow, that's something I did not know at all. So what for the Ivan Mahler start, what made you decide, hey, I'm gonna do this kind of account, and then also I'm gonna make an Ultimate Iron Man?
So maybe few months before Iron and Ultimate came out, I started to hear a little bit about it on YouTube and whatnot, and it seemed kind of like exciting, but it definitely seemed like a big time sink, especially with the restrictions. Like I mean, if you're watching this, the restrictions of the accounts, but I wasn't really serious at the time about making an Ironman just in general. I figured if I was going to do it, I'd do a regular Ironman. And then as it started to get closer to release of Ultimate and Iron, um, I realized that for the most part, I would play as an Iron Man without the restrictions, because just to save money and also just give myself more things to do, and feel more accomplished if you cut those logs yourself or fish those sharks and whatnot. So I figured, okay, well, if I want something completely different, I'll do Ultimate Iron Man, which seemed pretty crazy at the time because I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna be able to use a bank. Like, how am I gonna do this? Like, no one was talking about how to do this stuff, at least at the time. Besides, I believe one Twitch streamer, YouTuber, I forget his name. He's the one that actually like created the concept of Ultimate Iron Man. I think I watched like one of his videos at the time. Um, but what really pushed me over to creating a new account, the Ultimate Iron Man, is the fact that I actually got hacked by a friend. and I was thinking about quitting at the time because I had to start over. I had nothing besides my stats and quest points and whatnot. So that's why I figured, okay, maybe I'll take a few days off and then I'll figure out what I want to do. Well, I ended up making the Ultimate Ironman, and I'm like, okay, well, I want to do something a little bit different, kind of fun, and back to where I used to do a lot of PKing back in the day. So I'm like, okay, I'll do one defense because that might be interesting, and yeah, I kind of went off from there. And you mentioned the Obby Mauler. Yeah, I just figured that being an Obby Mauler in low combat would be pretty cool to have. I think a Obby Mauler maxes at 50 combat with one prayer. I can't remember exactly. But that was kind of the plan, and just to have really high non-combat stats, like be max with at 50 combat.
Mm-hmm. So that whole drive, not only your friend doing that awful thing to you, I'm sure many people have a very similar story, whether it was a friend or just in general getting hacked. And so
Of
you've been pretty
course.
much been playing that account since the release of Iron and Ultimate, right?
Yeah.
I don't want you to like tell
Um.
us an initial day because I know people don't like talking about that kind of stuff. Because I don't even tell
Well, of
people.
course.
Yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, we'll just say 2015 because that was like the release year. So almost 8 years now. Yeah, I don't think I've said that out loud. That's definitely weird. It still feels like it came out a year ago.
yeah. With all the updates that we get and all like the cool stuff and of course bad stuff we get, it's interesting to look back and how long ago some of the stuff came out. Like it's weird to think that Group Ironman is already what, like 2 years old, year and a half old.
Yeah, I'm probably just about. Yeah, and we'll talk about it at some point too. But I actually created a duo solo group Ironman or hardcore group Ironman at one point.
I actually was gonna ask if there's any other accounts you play nowadays besides the Ultimate Pure.
So up until Group Ironman came out, I only played this account. Most people will have alts or they'll still play their main on the side. I just completely ditched all my accounts and solely focused on this. Especially since I got hacked, I just lost that motivation completely for the main game. And what really got me interested in the game again is the fact that Ultimate Ironman, which is so different than anything I've ever done on RuneScape in general. Um, Before actually starting the Ultimate Ironman, at least back in the, let's see, yeah, RS2 days, PK'd a lot. And then before Ultimate Ironman came out, I also PK'd a lot, but near the end of, we'll say, my mainscape career, I don't know, say it like that, but that's when I stopped PKing as much and I just started PVMing.
Okay. Um, my other question I have for you regarding like your history is when did you start playing RuneScape and did you play any RS3 before you made the switch to old school? Because as a
So I
PKer, I'm
started,
sure Evolution of Combat kind of inhibited you a lot.
oh yeah, like, totally. With everyone, everyone was very angry. I just remember at the time, and I had one in real life friend at the time that also quit with me at the time. He wasn't a PKer, but he only really PVM'd, and it still was too different for him. But going back a little bit, yeah, I started between late 2005 and 2006. Played for about a year, just kind of learning the game from my friend that introduced me. And that's when I learned about what a pure was by going to the duel arena when people would still do that and just fight just for fun. You don't have to stake any money. You just fight random people, and I was realizing that I was getting beat a lot at my combat, but these people were only wearing robes or things that you wouldn't think of. It didn't look like armor, and I was always so confused. And then I realized after watching some YouTube videos that there was this thing called a pure, where you have very high combat stats at a low combat. Um, and that's where I really fell in love with PKing, because I realized, oh well, this is a great way to make money. At the time, not a lot of people knew what they were doing. You go out there with a D-Skim and DDS, and you dump all your specs on someone, and then people would actually have honor fights at the time. They'd stay till their or DMs, I should say, death matches, where they'd stay until their food is gone. And then you're guaranteed loot. If you had RNG on your side, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, nowadays PKing has definitely changed a lot. But going to when EOC came out, yeah, once EOC came out, I tried it during the beta. I actually tried PKing, and I think I bought like Vesta at the time, and I had a Turmoil Pure, so 30 defense, max with 60 attack. Don't remember the exact combat, but it was a very good build before they switched over to the EOC. And then when I tried an EOC, even with I think they still had Turmoil at the time. Yeah, it just wasn't the same. Having low defense didn't actually benefit you anymore.
Mm-hmm. And that's funny you bring up the
So
Turmoil Piers. Turmoil Piers was like the reason that I love the 30 defense builds. I never had
oh yeah,
one.
so nostalgic.
Yeah, I never had one, but I always I loved watching them and seeing them PK. I'm like, because back then it was you're either a Zerk or you're a Rune Pier. There was no in between, or a one defense. There was no alternates, and then Turmoil came out, and people were like, oh, you can get Turmoil at 95 prayer 30 defense, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah, the only people that really did anything in between was at 20 defense for Initiate. Um, and that was mostly just because the white and gold
Mm-hmm.
look cool.
I'm sorry
Didn't
to
see many
interrupt
of
you.
them though.
You can keep going.
Oh no, no problem. Uh, so let's see. Yeah, so once EOC came out, I was still in love with the game. I didn't want to stop, so I started looking into other ways to play the game. So that's when I started playing private servers. Um, and that's where I got a lot deeper into PKing, because you're not actually risking anything. You you just spawn a bunch of items and you go fight people. And uh, private servers were really, really, really popular at the time, because you have all these people that no longer can play the game. They've been playing for years. So that was definitely a fun time. And then there would be custom items that weren't really originally in the game, custom quests and whatnot. So I played private servers for a little bit, but the problem is that just kind of got boring because content wasn't coming out fast enough, and at the same time, it didn't feel the same. You might have 300 people max on a server at once, and it's all within one world on one server. So if you want to do anything besides PKing, well, you go fight a boss, let's say in God Wars. Well, there might be a line of 20 people, or people are just, you know, not taking the turns and whatnot. Or let's say you want to do some skilling. Well, yeah, good luck in those rune rocks. uh, so yeah, it definitely wasn't the same. So I quit just playing RuneScape entirely a little bit after that. And then once they announced that Old School was coming out, I definitely got really excited. That happened, let's see, my senior year of high school. So at the time, I was definitely busy, but um, I still played on release, and kind of going forward a little bit here. But that's when I started my first main on Old School, and I was the 45th person to get 99 Herblore, which at the time that was a big accomplishment for me, because it was like the first time that I was able to kind of watch my rank go up on the high scores. It was exciting.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely,
And
that feeling is great.
oh yeah, everyone says, oh, it's just a numbers game, XP go up, hee hee. But it feels nice like seeing it go up over time. Um, let's see. But yeah, the way I actually got 99 Herblore at the time was because the GE wasn't out yet. It was profitable to do Herblore, which was awesome. What I'd do is I would make DDSs from scratch. So I'd buy the DDSs I'd buy the Dragon Daggers from Xanaris, and then make the Poison plus plus with the Nightshades and coconuts and whatnot. Um, at the height of me creating DDSs, I think I had 20K DDSs at one point.
Oh my gosh.
Um, yeah, I was pretty much the person that actually provided DDSs for probably most of the people PKing at the time. I would sell. Well, I would buy all the supplies and whatnot for about 38K, and then I would sell them in bulk, so 100 or more DDSs at once for 45K each, and then I would sell singles for 60K. So those singles I was almost making double on. So yeah, I had a pretty lucrative business at the time, we'll say.
That's crazy to think about. Just
Yeah,
pre GE stuff is just insane to me to think about.
yeah, and to be honest, once we started talking about like pulling the Grand Exchange, I was getting a little depressed because I'm like, oh well, at the time merchanting was really fun for me, and creating something from scratch where someone didn't want to take the time to do it. And it also at the time it only needed 50% uh, for something to pass the poll, so it was a lot easier to get things through. So I think the Grand Exchange failed at first by like it was definitely in the 40% or so. And that's like, when we got the trading post and then people realized, okay, well, this is just Zybez with extra steps. Let's just get the GE in here.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, once the GE actually came to old school, those DDSs that I was selling for 60K each, all of a sudden overnight they're only selling for like 33. Like I was actually losing money at that time. So yeah, I almost quit at that point because the game that I grew up with as a kid was already changing again, and it didn't feel like old school to me at that point because you go to Varrock on World 2 nowadays, and you know you don't see anyone besides at the Grand Exchange. It was packed, at Varick West Bank, every day. You could buy anything you wanted there. But I see the other side too, because if you don't want to have to spend the time to, sit there and trying to find a deal or just buy like quest items, for example, like it takes a lot of time, especially for someone that can only play, a couple hours a day.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like people don't. Not everybody has the time to spend 15 hours a day looking for the supplies they need.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the biggest thing I think that we lost with the Grand Exchange is people doing B sales, where you know you,
Mm-hmm.
you trade someone and then they have 20 stacks of items that they want to get rid of, and you're like, oh, I want that, and they might give you a good deal if you buy them all. Um, but yeah, I digress from that point. uh, so after that, let's see. Um, yeah, once I got 9 on Herblore, I kind of didn't know what I wanted to do anymore. Like I lost my goal. So I figured, okay, like I'm probably gonna make this like a 30 defense account. Because it'd be cool to, wear Addy G with the Herblore cape. At the time, people even barely saw skill capes in the game. So it was always nice to like walk around and people like, oh wow, like I didn't know like people already had like 9 on Herblore and so on. Um, yeah, so I just trained up my stats a little bit on that account at the time. I think my name was like Mr. Herb or something, like something really silly.
Mm-hmm.
uh, but yeah, so after that, that's when I'm like, okay, well, there's enough items in the game at this point. I think it'd be a good idea for me to get back into PKing. So that's when I just made another one defense pure, and I pretty much PK'd on that for a couple of years, and then I believe yeah, I believe the blowpipe came out around that time, and some other items, and that's when I kind of didn't want to PK anymore because at first the blowpipe had the same attack speed as it has in PVM, but actually in the wild, so it was super OP, especially the venom and whatnot.
Hmm.
Um, so that's when I decided, okay, well, like I want to start doing some PVMing and have a more community like focus on the game. So I actually started my own clan, and I ran that for a couple years or so. I think I had like maybe 400 members or so. Like you log in and you'd always see like 20 to 40 people. So that was pretty nice. And then over time, the clan just split up because of time zones and whatnot. Because I was playing pretty late. Like sometimes I would get off at like 5 a.m. Definitely can't do that anymore. But that's kind of how it split up over time. And yeah, while I was running that clan is or actually when I started the Ultimate Ironman. So also I'd be logged into my Ultimate Ironman and not the owner of the account. So people actually thought I quit. And I always had to repeat, no, I have, this is my account. Like I'm just, well, I'm still playing, but I'm, on the Ultimate Ironman instead. So that kind of led to the fall of the clan as well. I feel like, well, it was mostly just the time zone changes. But a little bit after that, I was just kind of playing solo. I wasn't, part of a clan. And that's when I don't know if you know Trisk.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, he actually introduced me, or they introduced me to uh, the original Iron Pure clan. I don't know if you know if there was two at one point.
I did not. I think the only reason I knew about this CC was because I'd seen it in other people's videos.
Oh, okay. Yeah, at the time, I think there might have been like 5 or 10 people like in the CC at a time. So it was definitely during the early days. Gosh, it's probably think about it, maybe 5 years ago at this point. It really flies by. But yeah, it was Trisk. I don't know if you know Golden Pleb.
Nope.
Okay, well, Golden Pleb was one of the three people that created the original Iron Pure clan, as well as someone named Seven Eye. He's also known as Boris. And then there's one more. He hasn't played for a while, so I can't remember his name, but if someone's listening, they'll probably correct me. uh, but yeah, so I stayed in that clan for a while. Ended up going up the ranks, so I became moderator after a little bit, and then administrator. And at that point, was an administrator for a while. I think it was like Trisk, Golem Pleb, and I. And Boris or Seven Eye, he didn't really want to lead the clan anymore. He was really busy with the IRL and doing other stuff. So he asked us to step up to essentially lead the clan through in game and also Discord. And at the time, I had no experience with Discord whatsoever, so I kind of had to learn the back end of that. Um, and then Triss kind of moved on to a different clan. I think does Olympus ring a bell?
Yep, I believe he's still in Olympus to this day. Or
Yeah,
I
and
believe they're still in Olympus to this day.
okay, yeah, I believe you need like I think 2K total plus to join it or something, or some amount of EHP. I'm not exactly sure.
Pretty sure you have to be
But yeah, so
maxed for your build. Is like their new entry level requirement. Because that was one of the clans that I've thought about joining on Mayfield here. Not planning to in like the near future, but maybe as time goes on if I ever want to change. But as of right now, I'm comfortable in the clan I'm in.
oh yeah, of course. Yeah, so yeah, Trisk moved on and wasn't really active in the clan anymore because, yeah, Trisk was excited about being in the new clan, I'm sure. And then Golden Pleb at the time, I think he had got burnt out, so he wasn't really active. I would sometimes like DM him on Discord and get a reply a few weeks later about certain things happening with the clan that I need help with, like people fighting or being toxic and whatnot. So at that time, I reached out to the owner of the clan, 7i, and asked if I could just be the leader because I was pretty much doing it at that point anyways. So he said that's fine. He let me kind of take over, and I was the leader of the original Iron Pure CC for 6 months to a year, I believe. 2019, maybe 2018, around that time. And then once 2020 hit, end of 2019, with a lot of people, COVID affecting, everyone, my life definitely changed. In good ways and bad ways. So I definitely had some like family problems going on, but at the same time, I moved out for the first time and I got a full-time job. So there was definitely a lot happening. So at the time, I decided that okay, well, I'm just gonna take a little bit of break from old school and try to figure out like make sure I'm just like solidified in real life before I spend more time in the game again.
Hmm.
Well, so I told everyone the clan, and Seven Iron slash Boris said he'd be taking over the clan again at that point. So I was like, okay, clan's gonna be in good hands. Like, don't have to worry about it. Well, you know how life happens. A year went by, and this is the longest break I actually have ever taken from RuneScape. Well, maybe besides between the private servers and old school starting, but while RuneScape was still active, we'll say. So I come back to the game. Oh, actually, let me step back just a little bit. Um, yeah, so at the time, yeah, I finished 200 mil range before I took that break, and I was actually going for 50 mil I was going for 200 mil magic because I figured, okay, well, like over time, while going for 200 mil range, like so many updates came out. I wasn't really familiar with the game anymore because it took me, gosh, 5 years roughly and 7,000 hours to get 200 mil range, which at the time people, I think I made a post on Reddit and they were saying like you took the same amount of time as settled to Max's Ultimate Ironman just to get 200 mil range. I'm like, yep, I guess that's a good way to put it. And that's actually before settled did Swampletics, so that was actually a long time ago. Um, but yeah, so I finished 200 mil range, and I'm like, well, what now? Like I had to figure out, essentially how to play again because I was just killing random monsters for so long. Uh, and so I figured, okay, well, maybe I'll try PVMing and so on. And after thinking about it for a while, I'm like, okay, well, there's still a chance to get rank 1 magic. So I started going for that. Did Necreals from, see, 99 magic to 50 mil. At that point, I definitely got burnt out. So I was like, okay, well, maybe at this point I'll actually start PVMing. So that late into the count was actually the first time that I killed Zora, for example. So I was
Wow.
definitely really, really behind. Um, yeah, even to this day, I really haven't tried a lot of bosses. Like I haven't tried raids before, and all three. Still need to do that. Yeah, there's a lot of grinds that I still need to do, but that's kind of besides the point. We'll go into that in more detail at some
Hmm.
point. But yeah, kind of going back to what I was talking about. So yeah, at the same time of everything happening, IRL, I just finished 50 mil magic, and I was kind of like a little burnt out from that too. So that also led to me being like, okay, maybe I'll just take a small break. Well, days go into weeks to months, and then a year goes by. Come back to old school, actually because I realized that Group Ironman's coming out. So they got me pretty excited to play the game again. And funny thing is, a little bit before that, I was like, okay, well, I don't want to return to the game fully, so I'm gonna play private server again. Which, obviously, I should just play the original game at that point. But I want something with like, accelerates XP rates, something a little more fun, just kind of get me back into things again. So I played a private server for maybe 2 months before actually coming back to old school. And with Group Ironman coming out, I was very excited, and I was planning out what I was going to do. Originally, I had a really, really crazy goal of getting 400 mil Herblore XP between 2 Group Ironman accounts, and I thought I was actually going to go through with it, or like 400 mil Slayer.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out, yeah, right before Group Ironman came out, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's not realistic. It's going to take me, 10 years. So I decided not to go down that route. But I did think about, okay, like what skill do people really not like to train? And I have like a good chance of like becoming, rank 1, at least in something. So after thinking about it for a bit, I decided that I would get 99 mining on 2 accounts. And I end up doing that. I kind of have like I made a joke of the accounts. My group name for the Group Ironman is called Chunky Chads. uh, yeah, because at the time, the Chad meme was going on. Like it's hilarious. And one account was named Wide Chad, and the other one was named Jubbo Chad. So, and I'd have them logged in on the same world at Motherlode Mine, and people would always, get a laugh from that. So it kept me going. It was enjoyable. Um, but yeah, there wasn't really a good way to like find out if you're a rank 1 in a certain skill for Group Ironman, and still to this day they don't have a way to actually show that. You just see the highest ranked group based on toll level. And I
Mm-hmm.
still think they should revisit that at some point. I know it's going to be a lot of more processing in the back end for all those certain tables for. Yeah, so like I was saying, at the time, they or still at this point, they don't actually have a way to, see what skill, um, certain people are ranked in, for Group Ironman, just in general. And yeah, I was saying, that's definitely a lot more back end processing for, each group type as well. And then you have to think about, okay, which do we want to show, like certain ones that are prestige and whatnot. And I still don't think that was kind of silly at the time, just making it more complicated for people. But I mean, I get it. If you haven't, switched groups, you should be rewarded for that with a star.
Mm-hmm.
A gold star. It's kind of silly. It's funny. Anyways, yeah. So there was. I don't know if you're familiar with the site, Temple OSRS.
Of course, I put everybody's temple in the description, so your temple will also be down there.
Okay. Um, but yeah, so Temple OSRS was actually they actually created their own like high scores page for Group Ironman, which I thought was pretty cool at the time. So I was actually able to track like my rank based on the accounts that have actually been searched. And at one point, just to make sure that I was rank 1 mining on both accounts and also as a group total for Hardcore Group Ironman, I went to the main old school high scores page for Hardcore Group Ironman, and I literally entered every group that had at least 13 mil XP or over.
Mm-hmm.
That took me about, I think, like 2 days to do. It was quite a bit, but I just wanted to make sure because I put a lot of time into that. But at that point, uh, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do because I finally achieved that goal on both accounts. Oh, I forgot to mention from 90 to 99 of both accounts, I did Amethyst, so I could just do other things in real life at the same time. Um, so I decided, okay, well, like I've never done CG or Corrupted Gauntlet. So I think that'd be kind of a cool goal to go for in a group Ironman. And I was going to have both of them as pures as well, so they could be ranked in the clan, and I could still be in the clan.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, after a little while, I kind of started to think, okay, well, if I'm leading up to doing Corrupted Gauntlet, and I was watching videos at the time and realized actually how hard it was. I'm like, maybe I should practice a little bit so I don't go in there first try and lose my hardcore status. I probably wouldn't be pretty happy from that.
Absolutely.
Uh, yeah, so that's why I decided to actually get membership on Ult Pure again. this is the first time I logged back in Ult Pure for a little bit over a year at that point. And I had no like goal for this account again at that point. I just wanted to, test Corrupted Gauntlet because I already had Prif unlocked on this account. But I tried it for a bit, and then I started realizing, okay, well, what's the point in playing the hardcore group Ironmans? I'm so progressed in this account already, and that's when I made a decision to retire the hardcore group Ironman. That's a mouthful, and start playing Ult Pure again.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so yeah, that was a little bit over beginning of the year, I believe. Yeah, January is when I fully came back to this account.
Okay.
Yeah, because I played hardcore group Ironman for 3 months, and I was able to get 99 mining on both accounts within that time. So I was pretty proud of that. But that's when I had just a lot of like seeds that I was storing over time from 200 mil range. I know I haven't gone in depth about how I got that yet. I don't know if you wanted to
I was
have me
going to
talk.
ask, did you do any chinning, or did you just like kill shit? Like what was the play for tournament range?
So yeah, kind of going back a little bit here. Let's see. So just gonna throw out like one stat real quick, but uh, so I initially got 99 range 6 years ago, because I actually posted a YouTube video of that. I actually forgot I had a YouTube channel. I have just like 5 videos of 99s. But I was a 25th person to 99 range on Ultimate Ironman. And I was just doing that through Slayer. So I believe I was like 85 Slayer at the time. Um, and even then I was like ranked like 37 for Slayer, only 85. So not many people were playing Ultimate at the point, to be honest. But that was my first 99. So that's kind of where it started. And at that point, I had no intentions on getting a 200 mil. I thought that was, completely crazy. That's going to take way too like much time. I'd rather do other things. Um, but then because I was focusing on range so much, I was like, okay, how do I start training other stats on Ultimate Ironman? Because I had no clue how to do that. And I don't think a lot of people did at the time. Uh, so what I did actually was would add people on the high scores, like on the overall, and just see if like they're online. They'll actually like ask them what they've been doing for certain stats.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this is kind of like what led me to actually like want to go for a 200 mil, because one of the people that actually was online was, I don't know if you're familiar with the name Umemi or Ubari.
I have heard of Umemi, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, Ubari was their name before, and then Umemi was their name before they ended up stopped playing. But I believe Umemi was, I think he was like rank 8 overall, and he was a pure, and I was just baffled at the time that he had so uh, many more levels in skills besides defense that he was still on the high scores. Like overall, that would probably never happen nowadays. But yeah, I realized he was one defense when actually clicking on Umemi's name. So I was like, oh, okay, well, they're doing something similar to what I want to do. And yeah, I didn't actually know how many Ultimate Ironman had one defense at that point. I mean, this is the first person that I actually saw that was doing the same thing as me. So I asked Umemi, pretty much what to do for certain skills. And uh, sorry, I keep saying he slash they. I'm just gonna say he because it's easier for me. I hope you don't mind. But yeah, he pretty much like just gave me a bunch of tips and actually, gave me some goals and how to do certain things. And I realized that he was going for 200 mil attack at the time, and he wanted to be rank 1 for that. And I thought it'd be pretty cool to do something similar
Mm-hmm.
while you still could. And then actual reason why I decided to go for 200 mil range is because he made a really good point of saying that over time, Jagex is just going to keep making every skill easier. There's no point in going for all 99s at this point because 5 years down the road, it's going to take this, a different person half the time. And XP per hour, we'll say, to get, the same stats. So he's like, while you can solidify ranks on the high scores, you might as well. And I definitely thought about it. I knew how long it was going to take, but he had a good point. And I realized that no one had 99 or rank 1 200 mil range yet. I think at the time, sorry, I don't have the picture up, but I think when I was actually serious about it, someone was maybe 30 or 40 mil range or so.
Mm-hmm.
So I started going for that. And this was right after 99 range. So I figured, okay, well, I'll continue doing Slayer till I have 99 Slayer through range. And that's what I did. And I think I had maybe 40 mil range at the time, and I was rank 2. At that point, I was like, well, I don't really want to go post 99 Slayer because, if you're playing, let's say, I'm just throwing out a number here, but if you're playing 8 hours a day, it might take you 10 years to finish 200 mil Slayer. That's a long time. And
Yeah.
I'm honestly surprised how fast Sin City did it. But yeah, do you know Sin City?
No, I am not familiar.
Okay. So Sin City is also a UIM that I reached out to a lot in the early days, and how to play what and whatnot, as well as a lot of other top page people like Gibbed. When he was still playing, what's his name again? I think No Bank Wicked
Yep.
comes up.
I've heard of both of those people. I know who Gibbed and No Bank Wicked are.
Yeah. So they're pretty cool. And also the current rank one. Sorry, his name's eluding me. Paper Bag, UIM Paper Bag.
Yep.
Yeah, I talked to him a lot at the time, and they really like directed me in how to do things and certain goal-oriented conversations and whatnot. Uh, Sorry, I kind of lost track. Oh yeah, so I was rank 2 range, 40 mil range, and I think what was his name? Sorry, I don't know if you could tell, but I have terrible memory of remembering people's names.
That's all right.
Um, but yeah, I think UIM Link was on that list too, in the top 25 at the time. Uh, there was a guy that quit, and I think he was rank 1 at the time. I'll have to take a look at a picture like later and actually confirm that. But I believe they were like 50 mil or 60 mil range at the time. So I'm like, okay, well, like I have a really good chance of actually, locking rank 1. So that's when I definitely started playing a lot more. I was probably putting in 10 hours a day at the point, between AFKing, at work and then afterwards, like actually playing. But the actual method I took was at first I just kind of AFK'd Twisted Banshees, Aberrant Spectres, Gargoyles, a little bit of Slayer Tower Necreals, and I would kind of just like switch off between those like every 5 or 10 mil XP to keep the content fresh, but also make sure that I'm getting good resources and able to pay for broad bolts because broad bolts are definitely very expensive. Yeah, overall, I actually used 1.3 million broad bolts for 200 mil range. This is
Quite
definitely quite a bit.
it's quite a few broad bolts.
Yeah, and that actually got me from I believe 55 to 90 fletching. So that was pretty nice and it was fast XP, but it hurts your hands definitely.
Oh yeah.
uh, yeah, but so at that point, at around like 40, not 40 mil, sorry, maybe 50 mil or 60 mil range. I don't remember the exact number, but I was rank 1 at that time. And I was like, okay, well, I want to make sure that I solidify this rank. So I started thinking of different ways I could go about getting it. And I'm definitely not a high intensity player. I've never done any tick manipulation. I consider, for example, like catching red chins or black chins high intensity just because you have to constantly be focusing and clicking.
Hmm.
You can't really do like other things at the same time. So that's actually honestly why I didn't go the route of getting 200 mil hunter for the red chins to be able to throw them. Also, this is actually changing somewhat soon, but I did not have access to the MM2 caves, which is crazy XP per hour. Um, and I'll go into this as well, but that's actually how I lost rank one due to that method. But from that point, once I actually achieved rank one range, that's when I decided that I would do pest control. Because back in the day, before EOC came out, that was even a great method, and still was at the time
Hmm.
when I made that decision. So I was getting about 90k XP per hour between the points and actually playing the game, and only using range in the game, which was decent for not throwing chins. I mean, it also was pretty interactive. I actually don't mind pest control that much. I know a lot of people hate it, but going for sidetrack a little bit here for a second, but going for 99 prayer, um, it was the most efficient to start it at 81 prayer. So I did 81 to 99 prayer at pest control, and that took 50,000 points. Um,
That's quite a few
so
points.
yeah, it was definitely a lot. Think that took me like 4 months or 6 months to do that, just pest control, which if I could go back, I don't know. I would question myself, what are you doing? uh, but yeah, that's why I decided to just go for 200 mil range all through pest control because I knew that I was able to handle the grind for prayer. So I, I ended up doing that from about 60 mil range to 150 mil roughly. So I was there for quite a long time. I don't have an exact number of how many points, but it was definitely a lot more than going for prayer. Like,
Hmm.
gosh, maybe 6 or 10 times. I don't know the exact. I could probably calculate out for you. Um, but at that point, at 150 mil range, that's when I was officially passed for rank one. And I believe his name is Sond. I don't know if you know the name.
Nope, not familiar at all with that one either.
Okay, I believe it's Saund. Which in in retrospect, I honestly at the time when I was passed, I was a little frustrated because I'm like, oh, I've been spending so much time on going for this 200 mil range, and now I'm at the point where, do I finish it? Like I was kind of getting a little demotivated. So, but I ended up pushing through. Um, so from like 150 mil to, yeah, at this point I wasn't racing anymore because I knew I couldn't keep up with red chins and MM2 caves. I think it's like something crazy like 800 to a mil XP per hour
Yeah,
in
it's
those
it's
caves with red
crazy if you
chins.
have like void, salve, um, rigor, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, getting 200 mil, if you think about it, it's only roughly around 200 hours then. Um, which is crazy for a 200 mil. I think that's the fastest 200 mil, maybe besides, well, no, I think cooking's not even that fast.
I think construction and prayer are pretty close on mains because construction with mahogany benches, I think you can get like 800 to a mil an hour, and I think with prayer with superior dragon bones, you can also get around a mil 1.2 mil an hour.
Wow. Okay, yeah, no clue. Yeah, and to be honest, like I haven't really been paying attention to Mainscape stuff ever since I started this account.
Yeah,
Um, I don't think couldn't go back at this point,
same.
And
I'm with you.
yeah, it's just so different and enjoyable. Yeah, we haven't really talked about Ultimate Ironman just in general, why we love it, but we can get to that. um,
Absolutely.
Yeah, but so yeah, from 150 mil to about 175 mil, I switched off between Twisted Banshees, Gargoyles, Necrils again. And then at 175 mil, I think Sun was like 190 mil at the time or so. And that's when I started to get really busy IRL with school. So I actually had to take about a month off for finals just to make sure that I continue getting straight A's and whatnot. Uh, so yeah, I think when I came back, I finished off. Yeah, I finished off with ammonite crabs, and I was just AFKing with bone bolts just to save some money
Hmm.
while being at work and also um, while doing homework and everything. Like I tried to get as much XP in as I could while still maintaining a good social life as well as like making sure that like I'm solidified in real life and just in general. Um, that's kind of the path I took for 200 mil range.
That was a very informative thing. I think that many people nowadays would assume seeing that you chinned the whole way. So it's very interesting to see that you took a few different routes getting there because you were like chinning that the APM is just too high, you know?
Yeah, and the way I look at RuneScape in general is like I want to have fun. I want to be relaxed, especially after a hard day. I don't want to be stressed while playing a game that I love, you know.
Absolutely.
So
It's one of those things I think people like you said about not doing any tick minute stuff. I really enjoy doing some of that myself. Like on every time I like make a group Ironman or new hardcore project, whatever it may be, or even on Mayfield, I do 3 tick sandstone. Like that is one of my favorite mining methods is 3 tick sandstone.
yeah, I mean, I could definitely see it being fun if you're listening to some like trance or something. Definitely get in the zone.
Absolutely. And I usually do it when I'm like talking to friends or like you said, listening to trance, listening to music, podcasts, whatever it
That's a
may
good
be.
idea. Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, and to be honest, like I I've tried it a couple times and I just didn't enjoy it. But I can see why people do it, especially because the experience rates are just crazy. Especially with something like mining, where it's typically very slow if you're not doing tick manipulation.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the reason I like it is because mining is traditionally a very slow skill. So seeing my XP an hour in like the 80Ks just doing like sandstone or like 100Ks just doing granite, it's like, whoa. Feels
Yeah,
good. Feels good in the brain.
of course. And you not spend thousands of hours, we'll say, to
Exactly.
get nine of mining.
So you mentioned wanting to talk about like why UIM, like what makes you really enjoy it. So why don't we go into that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Oh yeah, and I just want to apologize for my long-winded explanation for 200 mil range
No, you're
and
totally good.
whatnot.
You're
But
totally fine. Like the whole point is to get the full perspective and not water something down, right?
yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Um, but yeah, why UIM? Why do we stick with it? How do we keep playing and not burn out? All that stuff. It's definitely interesting, and I'm sure everyone kind of has similar reasons, but not completely the same. So when I started Ultimate Ironman, I was really intrigued by the fact of just having your sole inventory. You don't have anything else. At the time there was, yeah, even when I started, the looting bag method was not discovered. People didn't even really use looting bags yet, or at least I didn't know. Um, so yeah, maybe people were using it, I just wasn't at the time. But
Mm-hmm.
for at least a few months, or I wasn't losing the looting bag, and I thought that was awesome because you actually have 28 spaces that you have to work with. Well, plus what you're wearing and stuff. There wasn't what are those called again? The storage units
Stat
for
units.
construction. Thank you. Yes, stash units. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. And it wasn't any of that. Even the POH didn't have much access for us at the time. So it really felt like what you're wearing is what you honestly that's what you have. What's on your back per se.
Mm-hmm.
And that was so cool. I thought because you know excuse me, as you're playing, you if you want to pick up certain materials, you kind of have to use them at that time, or you have to just keep them drop them or like leave them on the floor, especially during Slayer. The alkables, you don't have to worry about because you obviously alk them and just turn them into gold.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the other like noted stuff, um, say like planks and you know herbs, secondaries, all that stuff. Like you got to make sure that you're using that stuff, or you're just going to waste. And that's another reason why like I think Ultimate Iron Man is just so interesting, because typically when you're playing an account with a bank, you're just going to have a large stack of some resource in the bank, and you might use it in 3 years. With Ultimate Iron Man, you're either forced to lose an inventory spot, or you have to use it right now.
Exactly. And I
And
think what you said about looting bag, it kind of like it didn't diminish the like the prestige, but it made things easier. Like when they like one example I like to give is like when they added looting bags to Last Man Standing, it made Wintertod for me much, much, much easier.
oh, of course, especially at level 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's
What did
like
you do for looting bags before that level 3?
I well, before looting bags came to LMS, I actually didn't do anything that would warrant me needing one. So what I
Oh,
did,
okay.
I did
Smart.
like 30 mil rune crafting. I did agility, stuff like that. And then like it came out by the time I finished like my rune crafting grind, I was like, I have not done yet because I'm not 200 mil yet. But like once I like was like, okay, I want to do something else for a while. I want to like do a faster skill. And that's kind of when LMS added the looting bags, and I was like, oh, so I guess I can do Wintertod now pretty easily.
Yeah, that's perfect timing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and with I'm not sure if I'm butchering this name, the Ferox or Fero
Mm-hmm.
Enclave. Once that came out too, you no longer have to actually go in the wild to put things in your looting bag. And that's huge too. Like I can't name how many times I've heard of someone getting wiped just because they go into level 1 wilderness, the you know um not block to
Bag everything.
yeah, to bag everything, but then they're just punching a skeleton. And the method's eluding me.
Boxing a skeleton, yeah.
Yeah, boxing. Thank you.
No, you're good.
But yeah, they would just do that, and then all of a sudden I see a clip against someone getting frozen, and it's like, oh, there goes 2 bill. It just I'm very surprised that wasn't added in like a long time ago, and I'm glad it was.
Mm-hmm. It definitely made the method of using the looting bag a lot safer. Because before it was like, well, if I have to go out there and bag a full inventory of items once or twice, what are the odds somebody sees me and then just waits for me?
Yeah, especially on level 3, like someone could just create a new account and keep trying. Once they become level 5, just make a new account and just like completely harass you. Like that wouldn't be fun.
And thankfully that like never happened. No one ever attacked me, not or even came close to attacking me when I was out there doing stuff at the time before the Pharaoh change or Ferox. I actually also don't know really how to pronounce it. I usually call it
Yeah, I'm sure there's
the
some.
Pharaoh's Enclave, but it kind of sounds like a desert place now that I say it out loud.
Yeah, I don't know how you say it, but yeah, kind of going back a little bit. So actually, once I found out about the looting bag method, I actually got really demotivated again, and I almost quit Ultimate Iron Man because I'm like, oh well, now you have this mini bank. What's the point? Over time, I saw that it made the game more enjoyable because now you have 56 spaces instead of 28, so it made it a little better, especially being able to hold on to like just your resources like herbs and seeds before the seed box came out. That was a big thing. Um, Even runes before I believe rune pouch wasn't out yet at the time
No, I
when
think Rimpoch
ultimate
was
came out.
2015 or 2016.
Okay, yeah, so it was definitely around that time. I don't think got a rune pouch for quite a while too, because I was just scared of going in the wild and losing my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I actually did a lot of wilderness content. I'm sure this method was already well known, but you just suicide at I think they're called nettles or nestles in
Nettles is
Edge.
yep.
Yeah, and then you have 60 minutes to go do whatever in the wild, and then come back. That's actually how I got my dragon pickaxe at the time on 2K Worlds, which was nice. And then I think I only saw one PK the whole time I was doing that, and that was when I was still 85 combat.
So it was kind of hard for people in the 2K total worlds to even hit you.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think Venenatis is like around 36 wild, so I mean there's a pretty big range there too. I mean you could get attacked by meds and whatnot.
So that I think that leads me into another question that I had for you. Besides the 200 mil range, is there anything else that people know you for? And also, what are you working on nowadays?
Yeah, I can go over it a little bit. So I don't know if I'm well known for this, but yeah, I do have a YouTube channel. Don't have many views. It's only like 5 videos of me getting some 99s. If you search Ult Pure in YouTube,
I
you'd
can
see
also
it.
link. I'll
No,
also link below for it if you want to send me the link to it.
yeah, sure. Yeah, I also have a Reddit. I can link that too. But yeah, I mean, I started to get pretty well known. I mean, when I started actually posting on Reddit, um, yeah, let's see. The first one I think was my 99 range, or actually no, my 99 hit points video. But I had a YouTube video for 99 range before I started posting on Reddit. And then every time I got a 99, I would just post on Reddit. And then people started telling me about how they were inspired to make a one defense ultimate themselves. And that's when I'd actually like they messaged me in game, and then that's when the Iron Pure CC started to really fill in more between everyone else's recruiting efforts through YouTube channels. Like, for example, one that comes to mind is like Chapo or Chapo.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I think El Chapo. Yeah, Chapo. Yeah, he started making a lot of YouTube videos, and people kind of flooded in from there. But yeah, and that's really when the Iron Pure CC started to really, you know, kick off, and that was awesome. But yeah, let's see. So I was the 24th person to 99 Magic, uh, 14th person to 99 Prayer. That's some stats I have, but yeah, for the most part, like that, people know me from Reddit. Like whenever I would post on Reddit, I'd probably get like 200 PMs the day of on RuneScape, and just as many people as I could. People over time that would create One Defense Ultimate Ironmans would reach out to me for tips and questions and whatnot. And I actually love, answering questions about any methods or anything related to Ultimate Ironman, just in general, and just getting more people involved in the community and our clan more specifically, Iron Pure.
Awesome. So what is the move going forward? I know you said you have some PVM goals, some things you haven't done before that you want to get into. So what is the Ult Pure timeline for like the next year? I guess I would say is like what are your plans?
So my plan right now uh, is to finish off 200 mil magic. Like I mentioned, in around 2020, I stopped at 50 mil, and I think at the time I was maybe rank 3 magic or something along those lines, and 200 magic wasn't actually solidified yet for rank 1. So that's definitely one of those goals I want to finish off, just to lock in at least top 25 on the high scores, so I could look back at that and just be glad that I finished it off when I could. Um, so I'm currently, as of now, 82 million magic.
Hmm.
That's definitely going to take me maybe like a year and a half to finish off through Twisted Banshees. Uh, I'm currently killing Twisted Banshees because of not only being able to AFK, but also the loot. And also just the fact that the certain gear setup that's a little bit unique for this. So, for example, I have a Smoke Battle Staff, Salve EI, if there's any other. Oh yeah, and then the Chaos Gauntlets. So I'm actually able to hit a 19 max on the Twisted Banshees, and they have 0 magic defense.
Hmm.
So it's pretty good. I mean, for being LFK, I get about 40k magic XP per hour, which is definitely low compared to barraging or bursting necks or dusties or MM2Ks. But it allows me to AFK with 99 prayer and 33 per bonus for 10 minutes. which is a little bit over the time that a monster would actually be aggro to you. So it's actually perfect with the 9 prayer and the amount of prayer bonus I have, like with devout boots and whatnot.
That is perfect.
Yeah, so yeah, obviously when I get drops, I have Windows notifications that let me know. So I do have to click like more than like once every 10 minutes, but typically I can AFK for a couple minutes here and there. At this point, I really just play RuneScape to relax, but I always like to do something else while I'm playing RuneScape. So I'll be playing different video games, watching things, talking to friends, all that kind of stuff. So I've thought about, finishing off doing Nex or Dusties, but it's just so click intensive, and I have to constantly just be paying attention to that like I just don't really enjoy it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure other people would have different opinions, especially if you're going for like 200 mil Slayer. I mean, you're gonna do a lot of barrage tasks. Like I
Yes.
can't think about how many. But also a side goal that I'm going for at the same time is 200 mil hit points. So I'm currently at 103 mil hit points, and I think I'm like ranked like 22 or something. So I want to make sure that I finish that off before I get booted off the top 25. I think that'd be another cool one. But I'm not sure if I'm going to do post 200 mil magic with barrage or burst to finish that off, depending on like how close I am to getting booted off. If I have a little bit of a leeway, I'd like to go for 200 mil attack and strength as well. But it really depends if there's still a slot open on the top 25 at that time. I mean, even if there isn't, I might just do it to like finish off all the 200 mil combats besides prayer. I don't know if I want to go for 200 mil prayer. That would be a lot of pest control. Or I guess, yeah, more pest control. But I think actually Red Dragons on in Hasidius is actually pretty good nowadays. That might even be better than pest control. I'll have to see the XP rate. But yeah, that's kind of the goals right now. And then I guess once maybe if I get burnt out from going for the 200 mil goals, then I'll finish off maxing eventually. I'm not really EHP focused. So like for example, I'm not gaining any EHP from hit points or magic. I think you get zero, even if you're 200 mil. So eventually that EHP will go up, but I'm not really in a rush for that. That's not really my intentions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think magic is calculated, and the same with hit points is 0 time for most things, because magic is one of those skills you can do with anything else, or like you said, burst tasks through Slayer, elking while you're doing agility, magic imbue while you're just doing random stuff around Sepulcher or whatever it may be. But I know
Yeah.
you can't get to Sepulcher on your account, can you?
I don't think so.
Yeah, because I think you need Sins of the Father, and for that you need to get 2600 defense XP.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to be able to do that.
Okay, I didn't even think about that. All
But
right,
yeah, speaking of that, I've thought about getting defense a lot
really?
over the years. Yeah, and I'm glad I never went through with it. I mean, just like going from 50 attack to 99 attack, like I regret it now. But it is what it is. I'm just glad I didn't do the same thing with defense.
It's one of those things. It's weird because I'm in the same boat as you. Like if I want to try a new build or if I want to do something different, I'll make a new account. I'm never going to ruin Mayfield as a level 3 ultimate because I've done so much at this point on it. That's why I make the project accounts. So like I've talked about it a little bit with my other cast, other people, but I also have a 1 defense UIM. It's very early
Oh,
game. I don't play it. I haven't played it for a long time. I haven't played it since I think March 2021, so quite a
okay.
while.
Yeah.
And then I
I
have
mean,
the
if
30 defense Ironman. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if you ever need any tips or tricks, let me know.
I will. Trust me. I am very unfamiliar with combat on a UIM. Most of my other accounts that I've made projects for combat, like same with the group Ironman, like that was just a main, but like I was doing CG on that, Vorkath, stuff like that. So it's like I'm familiar with a little bit of stuff, but I've done all 3 of the raids once or twice each. Theater of Blood definitely being the hardest one, and I've only ever done entry mode. Never even done a regular TOB, so that's a very frightening prospect for me.
Oh yeah, like I was saying, like I haven't even tried raids, so maybe we can learn together or something.
Definitely, yeah, I'm trying to get to Tombs of Masket on the hardcore pure. I think that's my big goal on it, so maybe once I
That'd
get
be
there,
cool.
you'll be in the mood to do some.
Yeah, I mean, and that's another thing is because like I've been so tuner mill focused for so long, like I definitely missed out on like the excitement of trying the new raids. And then it's just at this point I feel like everyone, especially with like solo, like Olm, like everyone's got everything down where you don't even get damaged. Like there's definitely a lot to learn, but it's exciting. Like it'll be something else to move on to.
Absolutely, and I think that, like, that's one of the cool things about the way you played as well is, like, you were very focused for a long time on one thing, and you enjoyed doing that, which means you have 4 years of backlog content that you're like, "Oh, I could go do this at any time if I want to, but I can also just sit here and do the thing I enjoy doing." It's the same thing that I find myself thinking about on the level 3. It's like, yeah, I could go do Giants Foundry right now, but I'm having a lot of fun working on fire making. And doing fire making, I will be getting a bunch of ore to do Giants Foundry with. But in that sense, I'm also still working on some other things aside from fire making. So it's like there's always different things to do out there. More, more, more.
Yeah, and that's another reason why UIM is so interesting is because you have to kind of like force yourself to focus on one goal at a time just because of the inventory management.
Absolutely. It's definitely one of the humps that or hurdles people have to get over for playing the game
Yeah.
mode.
But I actually haven't tried Giants Foundry either yet, so I think that'd be kind of cool.
I enjoyed it on the account that can bank. I've heard about a few different methods that UIM use. So like do you have Song of the Elves done?
Yeah.
So I know people buy plate bodies from that store, like Addy and Myth, and do those at Foundry. I know people do
Mm.
like Horvik. Like I will have to do Horvik, so like Iron and Steel or Steel and Myth from him. Or I'll have to go to Blast Furnace and just have a bunch of bars set up there.
Oh, okay.
So it's all about, what is the right play, you know?
Yeah, of
And that's the
course. And
fun part.
yeah, and that's why RuneScape's so great is because whatever you're in the mood for, you can just go do it. And
Exactly.
I feel like I feel like a lot of games just don't have that aspect to it. Yeah, actually during that time when going a little back here, but during that time when I wasn't playing during 2020, I tried playing like so many other games that I kind of missed out on, like teenage years and whatnot, including something like Mass Effect and whatnot. And I never really felt like I was getting that same experience as RuneScape in general.
Mhm.
It's definitely a niche entertainment value, we'll say.
Absolutely. And I actually have 2 more questions for you before we sign off, and one of
Sure.
those is about that, but I'll save that one for last. So my second to last question for you is how do you balance your life between finding time for RuneScape or other hobbies, finding time for friends, family, and your job? Like what is your big tip for your work life balance?
Yeah. So without giving too much detail, I work full time in IT. I manage a team of interns, um, as well as have various projects that I work on, building websites and all this stuff. But yeah, I work 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. So when I'm not at work, if I'm not seeing family or or seeing friends, I'm basically on RuneScape, and then playing other games at the same time or watching things. So I always try to stay logged in if I can. Um, Before I was full time, I was an intern, so I was a little risky, and I AFK on the side when mobile actually just came out. And my boss wouldn't really come over to my desk very often, so I was able to AFK like actually the entire day at that time. That was really when I was trying to put as much XP in as I could for the race for 200 mil range.
Hmm.
But for the work-life balance, specifically at least now, yeah, for the most part, like I always try to prioritize real life over RuneScape. RuneScape's always going to be there to relax with, but the the issue is, if you don't focus on real life more, then you're not going to be able to relax and enjoy, old school, even RuneScape 3 if you're into that, like on your off time. And that's why I personally think, if you don't have other things to do in life and you're only playing RuneScape, like you're going to get so focused on that your life's just gonna kind of pass you by, and you're not. Um, and it might be too late before you realize, oh, I'm 35, 40. I think a lot of us are gonna be playing into our 90s at this point. All I want to say about that is like just making sure that you have a good, work-life balance and friends balance too. Being social is a good thing, especially with things like Discord nowadays. Like you don't have to have, friends in real life, but just being able to talk to other people definitely helps mentally.
Hmm. I really like what you said about like don't let it pass you by. Like enjoy the game, of course, but like don't let it become everything about you. Like so for some people, that's what they want to do. I'm sure people like, you think about like Link's Titan. He did Tutor Mill all and he just stopped playing. He dedicated what was 5, 7 years of his life to the game. And then he was like, well, that was the thing I really wanted to do and I completed it. Now I don't know. I think people have talked about how he has like a great full-time job and all that shit and he just doesn't play anymore.
Yeah, and that's awesome. Like most people will start a new account and then do it again. Like one name that comes to mind is I think Ring 2 overall. What's his
Hey
name?
Jace. Yep, who now he does collection logging.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he has like yeah, he has his 200 mil all account, but he also while he was going for that, he had another account that like he maxed out and was doing PVM before on, you know, and that's great. Like, and he's able to make a living off content creation and doing Twitch and whatnot, but it's definitely a lot of hours.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's especially like yeah, I think it's going to be different for people who are like streamers, like full-time like RuneScape creators or content creators for other games. It's like when that game becomes your job, how much of that game are you going to play outside of, streaming or making content for it? So it's like that becomes their own work life balance. Whereas for like people like me and you who like I do make content. We're doing making content right now, but I don't.
Of course.
This is not how I make my living. I do this because I enjoy doing it and I enjoy these conversations with people and that's something people who have listened to multiple episodes will have heard me say over and over again. Like, and when the this will go up after the Hooray for Jay cast has gone up, and me and Jay go really in depth about how don't do something if you don't enjoy it. If it's not something you have to do, don't do it if you don't want to do it. It's like the RuneScape grinds. It's like real life things like, oh, I can afford to order out tonight, so why would I make food? It's simple
Yeah.
things. It's like as long as you're eating right or doing things like fulfilling your obligations, yeah, same idea, I think.
Yeah, and like you always see those memes when, well, especially recently, like with the servers being down for like over a day, like you'll see those memes where it's like, oh, time to go eat or take a shower, and I know there is people out there that like actually live like that. Like,
Mhm.
I like for example, I've seen streamers that have a piss bottle, like that's a little extreme to me. Like not judging, but like you should be able to get up and go to the bathroom, like
Yeah. There are
you
things
know.
and there are things I do every day when I play, like, I make it a rule for myself to not eat while I play. I take the time when I eat to, like, disconnect.
Yeah, it's good to have like some like non-screen time during the day.
Oh, I definitely still watch YouTube videos.
Oh.
I
Yeah.
am unfortunately part of the people who are severely addicted to having content or something stimulating my mind or brain all day.
Yeah, I totally get it.
It's just like it's a curse. It's been that way since I was God, like 11, 12.
Oh yeah, and like, with so much accessibility to phones nowadays, like, it's hard to put it down.
Yeah, man. It's like, I'll go outside, have a cigarette, and, scroll on TikTok or, reading a Reddit post. Or that's usually when I read the old school updates for the week whenever they come out. Since we missed update last week because, like you said, servers being down, I know a lot of people were excited for this week's update. I know many of us, including probably yourself, were wondering, okay, is the Monkey Madness update going to come out? I
Yeah, winter 2017, right?
exactly. Winter 2017. So,
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they're excited to do that, but it's only going to be helping like a niche amount of players. Like it's actually only helping, one defense Ironman. So I don't know if they're gonna be really focused on releasing that anytime soon. I think they were just kind of like being like, hey, like we want to do this for people, we just don't know when.
I think I saw somebody mention they said before Christmas.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. That's awesome. Like,
Yeah, so it should be before the end of the year, but like winter 2017.
yeah. um, but yeah, kind of related to that. My goal actually is if they do end up releasing that, I've heard that MM2Ks are pretty AFK, so I might actually switch to that. Only thing is the GP per XP is really high. I think it's something like 400 mil cash I'll need for finishing off. So, not sure if I'll be doing that because I'll have to switch off in between, but we'll see. I might have that in the plans.
Might add okay, well, there's one thing I do like mention to people is that like, obviously assuming you still play in like a year, I would love to do like catch up casts with people, whether it's like a 20-minute catch up on like what we talked about, or like a full another hour and a half about, stuff like that. Like be like, hey, did you achieve what you wanted to do and all that kind of stuff. So just so you know that that's always on the in the cards if the time comes and you're like, yeah, I would love to do that.
Yeah, I'd definitely be interested. And yeah, I've enjoyed this conversation. So yeah, I mean, even if you want to do something, a little sooner, it's not even about me per se, like talking about content, things like that. If you want to explore other options with podcasts, I'm definitely interested.
Absolutely. And that would bring me into the final question I have for you today. You talked about when you play RuneScape, you do other things. I think many of us can relate to that. We play other games, we watch movies, TV shows. At some point, I was like reading books while I would play because I would like read like manga on forums and stuff like that, and just like ripped sites and stuff like that. Please don't come for me, FBI. I promise I pay for things now. So what kind of other games do you play? And what kind of like TV shows and movies do you like? As you're the first person I've ever kind of thought to ask that question. Like what kind of other content do you consume?
Yeah, it's a good question. Um, so for the most part, well, first of all, I should say I don't really watch Twitch or YouTube anymore. Definitely a few years back, I would watch a lot of Twitch, and I would try to watch the smaller streamers, just to get a better like conversation going, rather than like trying to get your message in and you have to pay $100 for them to actually acknowledge you. Um, and I know that there are some people out there like that, or even just like spending $5 like every 10 minutes or something. No, that definitely adds up. But being able to like have a conversation with someone, while we're both playing, that's really what Twitch, was about for me. You might have 10 or 20 people viewing, and that's where I personally think the best, well, communication, but also experience comes for Twitch. Um, but over time, the content creators that you watch, like, I don't want to really say it like this, but like grow up or like expand like over time and become famous and whatnot, you don't really get to talk to them on a personal level anymore. um yeah, I definitely saw that happen with a lot of people. But it's a good thing though, because then they're able to enjoy what they're doing, and you know, where was I going with that? Sorry. Yeah, they're doing better for themselves and they're be able to make a living, after being able to have more viewers, get more donations, become partnered and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so I haven't been really watching Twitch or YouTube that much anymore, just because I like doing other things now. Instead of like consuming the content, I'd rather create content for myself. That's kind of what I'm trying to kind of say here. But yeah, I mean, Twitch and YouTube are great, especially if you feel like just like relaxing and sitting back. Because I mean, I still watch stuff, but just not those in particular. But in terms of games, that's really what I'll do on the side nowadays. I kind of play a whole plethora of genres. There is one type of game that I will not play, and that is first-person shooters. And I know that's the majority. And I'm gonna get a lot of hate from that, especially with them coming out with all the Call of Duties and whatnot again. Yeah, I can't come up with any new concepts, but that's besides the point. Um, but yeah, I mean, for example, I'll go into this a little bit. When I play a first-person shooter, I just feel like the gaming industry really hasn't advanced with a first-person shooter that much. Like, I still feel like I'm playing like those early games, like mid 2000s and whatnot, like, or even like the Skyrim type of game. Like, I know it's not a first person shooter, but just the first person like genre in general. I just feel like with a third person game, I'm more immersed, which it doesn't make a lot of sense because you're more close to the what you're viewing when you're in first person, but
Absolutely. No,
that's just a preference.
I get what you're saying because like I agree with the fact that a lot of companies, like specifically Call of Duty, Battlefield, like those two franchises, they started all these big monsters of games. Like people were like, oh, these are crazy. Can't wait for the new Call of Duty to come out. But now it's been so long and they haven't reinvented the wheel. Is basically
Yeah,
what people are waiting for them to do.
that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Like, I just feel like a lot of these companies, like, or even just movies in general, they know what works, they know how much effort they need to put into it, and they know they're going to make a profit. At the
Hmm.
end of the day, there's no creativity there anymore. It's just a machine, you know? Like, kind of digressing a little bit here, but like, for example, movies from like the 80s and 90s, like they're all so different, and you could tell there's like more passion, involved. Where now, like with Marvel movies, you can definitely see them being all like cookie cutter, like
There's a
they're very
formula.
safe. Yeah, there's definitely a formula to it. You know that there's a guide or handbook, we'll say, on how to make a movie nowadays. And I feel the same way with some type of games too, especially shooters. But I know there's a lot of people out there that enjoy shooters, so um, I'm not trying to say they're not good games.
No,
But
I play Counter Strike like a lot. It's my other big game that I play. So but I absolutely understand what you say. Like I totally get it.
yeah, I haven't played Counter Strike myself, but people have said it's definitely one of the better ones out there.
If you get interested, there's a pro tournament going on right now. So it's one of those. I watch like the pro scene. Like actively watch it and like know pro players. It's one of those games that like has had say a very similar longevity to RuneScape because Counter Strike as well has been going on since about the same time as the original RuneScape was released, RS2, like 2001 ish.
Oh wow.
There's been just a couple different iterations of Counter Strike, but the one we play on right now has been out for 10 years. But the game itself is 20 years old.
Well, that's definitely cool that you were able to like, grow up playing like another game like similar to RuneScape, but it's just been growing over time.
The funny part about that is I didn't start playing Counter Strike until I was 18.
Oh, okay.
I never had a good enough
'Cause-
PC.
Yeah, that's another thing about PC gaming. You got to constantly upgrade, and especially with like chip shortages recently, like it's expensive.
I will say it's been nice to see the 30 series go down in price because I can go to Micro Center in my city and I can go pick up a 3070 Ti for under $500 there.
Oh wow, that's not bad.
No, it's super. Like I think next year I'm gonna build a new PC again because right now I'm rocking the i7 8700K, 1070, 16 gigs RAM, like basically like really good computer in 2017, 2018.
Yeah,
But
I
now
mean,
it's pretty mid-range.
yeah, I mean, as long as you're not trying to play every game in high settings, you should be fine. But yeah, I get it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Cause I play RuneScape and I play Counter Strike, and like sometimes I'll play like my friends play like. You ever played Escape from? You ever heard of Escape from Tarkov?
I'm not.
Okay, it's another like big FPS game. Very buggy, but that game runs pretty well on my computer. But that's another one that like when you said like none of them had really reinvented, like that is the one FPS I think I could say that it definitely reinvented some aspects of the game, of the genre itself.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to take a look at that one then. Maybe it'll get me back into the first person scene.
It's very hardcore. Unfortunately, like it's steep learning curve. I have like
Oh,
I have like 500 hours in that game, and I'm still bad at it.
wow. Okay. Yeah, that definitely sounds steep.
But I mean, that's kind of how we think about RuneScape sometimes too, right? You know, many good players don't really get to the point where they're like, giga chads until they've played for thousands of hours. If for lack of better terminology.
Yeah, and at least this is how I think about like high level PVM. Um, if you're not able to prey flick or are not willing to, strain your hand, I feel like that's also a big like barrier to entry.
So, what are then the other genres and other games you like to play then? If you're not a big FPS or big first person RPG kind of guy.
So I really, really like old platformers.
Mhm.
So, and when I say old, I'm not too old, but like I don't know if you've ever heard like Sly Cooper,
Yep.
um, yeah, Ratchet and Clank, Jack and Dexter. Like those are like my childhood. So I always love like playing those at least once a year.
I love Jack and
Um,
Daxter. Love, love, love it.
yeah, I really wish they would make another one. But they were working on a Jack and Dexter 4 at one point, and they were going to make it realistic, but then they released the concept art out to people and they hated it.
Hmm.
Like it didn't look right, so I think that's why they decided to go with making The Last of Us instead. And then they're so in love with that series at this point, I don't think they're going back to Jack and Dexter.
As unfortunate as it is.
Yeah. Um, but let's see. Yeah, so platformers are always a go-to for me. I love the Souls series, including like Bloodborne and the Neos and whatnot. Unfortunately, you cannot pause while playing those games, which I think is really weird why they didn't implement that. I guess they wanted to be more intense, but I can't play RuneScape while playing those. So whenever I feel like taking a small break for like a week or so, I'll play some Souls games. Uh, I love using Xbox Game Pass, just because there's so many available games. So I'll just try a little bit of everything. Um, like for example, recently I've been replaying Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Origins. Those are really long games and in depth, so those are always fun for me. I'm a really big fan of racing games. So, for example, my favorite racing game is Need for Speed Underground 2. Really like Underground 1 as well. Um, don't know if you're familiar with those ones as well.
Absolutely. And I was gonna say, I also am a huge Souls fan. I actually have a Dark Souls 3 tattoo.
Oh,
Um,
that's cool.
it's not like super Dark Souls 3, but like the meaning of it is. But I fell in love with Elden Ring once again, like right when it came out.
Oh yeah, Elden Ring is great. How far did you get, or did you beat the game?
I got to the final boss, got mad, and I have not picked up the game since. I spent a good like
Understandable.
4 or 5 hours trying to beat Radon, like not Radon, Elden Beast, and I just couldn't do it. My build, I had a Holy Knight, so it was like I had the worst kind of build to fight him.
Yeah, because the resistances. Yeah,
Yeah, so it was like
dang it.
fuck.
Yeah, I will say that with Elden Ring, like that's the only one in the series where you're actually required to like respec for certain bosses, and I think that was kind of a bad route to go because a lot of people quit because of that.
And see, I didn't even know it was that like that was the problem with my build until I saw somebody come out and say like, "Oh yeah, like if you want to make the Holy Knight build, just don't use it for the last boss. Use just do something else for the last boss." And I was like, "Oh, that
Yeah, but
makes a lot of sense actually."
it's just kind of silly though, because like the whole game you're upgrading certain weapons, and then all of a sudden for the last boss, it's like, oh, I have to go grind a bunch to be able to upgrade this weapon that I don't care about.
Exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, Elden Ring was definitely an awesome journey. Like I like the fact that like they took the like Breath of the Wild like take on it, but then you have Dark Souls at the same time, and the fact that like it's not linear. So like if you choose to not go for like main course, you could do all the dungeons first if you wanted to. Like you could go to the I don't know what it's called, but like the red area, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, like the Rotten
Kaled,
Village or
Kaled.
whatnot. Yeah, yeah. You could go there first if you wanted to, like to get items. Like, anyways, though, like yeah, that's what makes games like that so much fun, and that's why like I like Elden Ring so much is because it's like RuneScape where you have that choice of open world engagement.
Absolutely. Any other
But
games you could think of, or did you have any questions for me?
one game that I am really looking forward to coming out in the second is Need for Speed Unbound. Kind of looks like it's going to be like an Underground 3 type. So, um, yeah, I'm probably gonna that's a day one purchase for me.
Hell yeah.
um, but yeah, let me think if I have any questions. I mean, we could probably talk for another hour just based on questions that I would have for you for your account. So, I mean, maybe at some point we could do like a reverse podcast if you want.
I would love to do a reverse. I just I don't. You're the first person ever to show interest in that. So maybe at some point we will get back together for the reverse. You can be Alt Pure and friends the next time.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, I mean, because at the end of the day, this is a community-based game. Just podcasts in general are supposed to be interactive and community-based. Like, I don't want this to all be all about me,
Hmm.
Because I'll be honest, I don't really ever talk about myself, so this was kind of weird for me. But it was enjoyable as well because I was able to kind of like relive the past in a way.
Exactly. And I think the big part, like I said in the beginning, it's to kind of bring light to members of the community who don't like usually have a big presence. Not saying I have a big presence because I have what like 170 subscribers, but all these get like 100 views. So it's like chances are somebody who is watching this has never heard of you or has no idea what you're all about, and they'll probably look your account up um before you actually before they actually listen. Like, oh, that guy's crazy. I want to hear what he has to say.
Yeah, of course, and I mean, like you said, you said you have 177 subscribers now. It's still getting up there. Like, I think the biggest thing with starting out is like continuing and being consistent. And like you mentioned, like you're gonna continue with these podcasts, and I think they're great.
Well, thank you. And I think that is all I have for you today.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else at this time, but yeah, definitely reach out if you ever want to do something like this similar again.
Awesome. And then definitely like, if you have any questions that you just can't wait to ask, you feel free to PM me as well.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Sorry, I can't really think of any right now.
No, that's all good. Maybe if you come up with a list, we'll sit down and talk about it.
Okay. Yeah, did you still want me to send over some pictures too?
Yeah, that'd be great. So yeah, that reminds me as well. Down below, I'm gonna have some kind of Imgur or Imgur, however you pronounce it. I have stupid website name. Um, album of a bunch of alt peers like achievements and when they happen and all that kind of stuff. So you guys can kind of get a cool timeline progression of how all of this happened. When we talked about it. And all that being said, I want to thank you again for being on the cast. And do you have anything to say before we sign off?
I just want to say thank you for having me, and if you've gotten to this point in the video, thank you to the viewers for listening to me ramble. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed it. And yeah, if you ever want to have, a more in-depth conversation with me, you can join Iron Pure CC. as a friend. And then if you want to make a one defense, or actually our clan Iron Pure allows 1 to 45 defense pures. Um, Ironman, Ultimate Ironman, Hardcore Ironman, all the group ones. I know there's like more now. Um,
The 1,000
but yeah,
variants
if you
now.
yeah, exactly, between the prestige and also the ones where like you can de-iron and become a group Ironman. Yeah, it's so confusing now. But anyways, yeah, if you ever want to talk about any Ironman pure related conversations, feel free to join the CC. And there's a lot of knowledgeable people in here, and there's also a lot of other people that have crazy accounts in this clan. Like I'm sure you can have at least like 20 or 30 more podcasts based on just accounts in the CC in general.
Absolutely.
Um,
I think I already have another person from the CC lined up. Not gonna say it now. But
well, there's
they'll be coming out probably early next year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and also all the other podcasts you're gonna have going on.
Well, thank you again, and thank you everyone for listening. Like all Pierce said, if you got this far, thank you so much for listening. Once again, hit the like, hit the sub if you want more. They're just coming out every single week. January 4th will be the last week of it being weekly. So that will be about when this goes up, about 2 or 3 weeks from this point. So thanks once again, and have a great day.